So I'd like to say hello and greet everyone who's watching us. Today we have a very special panel. That's the 11th online gathering of young Theosophists, and our theme will be Platonism and Theosophy. And some people may think that the theme of Plato and Platonism can be a very sort of marginal or obscure theme and not so associated to Theosophy, but I would remind everyone that Plato had a great influence in Blavatsky's writing. In her writings, she would recognize him as a great initiate and perhaps one of the greatest, especially in the West. And she had the help of at least two specialists on Plato when she was writing Isis Unveiled. And in other writings, she also recognized the huge inspiration that she got from the Neoplatonists of Alexandria, like Plotinus and Iamblichus. So when we study Platonism, we are pretty much studying one of the main main schools of thought that influenced the modern theosophical movement, especially in Blavatsky's writings. So my name is Rafael, and I will introduce our four speakers today in this panel. And to begin our talk, I'd like to introduce briefly Miriam Martínez. She's a member of the Theosophical Society in Spain, in love with the Greeks for a long time. And she will speak about Socrates and the pre-Socratics, the Greek thought in general, as we tried to keep some sort of chronological order between the speakers. So Miriam, you are welcome to begin.
Well, hi all, always happy to be here with all of you, with the ones I know, with the ones I don't know, and thanks for the intro, Rafael. Well, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes, it's not full screen though.
No, it is, I think.
Yes.
Well, the title of my short presentation is In Quest of Essentials, the journey of the Greek philosophers, the Greek philosopher. We'll see what these words mean. And I chose this pic from the Acropolis in Greece. It represents the Athenia's olive tree. Because for the Greeks, the olive tree had an enormous symbolism. Legend has it that Zeus offered a contest between Athenia and Poseidon for the possession of Athens. So Poseidon raised his trident, smashed it upon the Acropolis rock, and a salt fountain sprang. But it was salty water, meaning not water to drink. So it wasn't really useful. But on the other hand, Athenia produced an olive tree. And so the people of Athena chose her, and now it has her name, as a reminder that as the olive tree, wisdom is ever flowing, ever becoming. And once I share this short tale, I would like to start this approach to the Greek philosopher with this beautiful painting called La Scuola di Atene, the School of Athens, which represents the more outstanding philosophers, mathematicians, scientific, and relevant figures in ancient Greece and in the classic world, in what seems to be a monumental temple. In the center stage, there's Plato and Aristotle, and it is remarkable to notice that Plato's hand, his index finger, is pointing to the sky, while Aristotle's it's pointing to the earth. So this represents this the world of ideas, the noumen, what he called this world of ideas anyway, and the world of matter, the mensurable, touchable. Maybe there's something that may seem invisible, but it's, I think, the most important thing in this picture. And it's the gods, the keepers, the custodian of the temple. We can see here Apollos, god of the sun, the reason, the logic. And in the other side, there's Minerva, or Athena, the goddess of wisdom, justice, and love. And this is very important because until this moment, the world for the Greeks has been the poets, the past, the memory. But now there's a call for the reason. There's a transition from mythos to logos. Meaning that now the quest is the truth, the justice, the encounter with reality. And this is the philosopher task from the word philosophos, lover of wisdom. In other words, it's the quest for essentials. And it is crucial to notice that the philosopher can only find the essentials through deep and objective reasoning and inquiring and questioning. He is unquestionable to connect the earth and the heaven, the known and the unknown, matter and spirit. In other words, to define the arche, the arche, the principle, how all it began. Thales of Miletus, for example, proposes this principle is the water, while on the contrary, his disciple Anaximander says the first principle is neither water nor any other things called element, but some other nature which is undefinite, what he called the apeiron. We have, for example, Heraclitus of Ephesus, who says Fanta Rei, everything flows, and he relates the essential to the fire. Parmenides says it's the unity of being the essential, and Pythagoras of Seymour says the essence is the number. Democritus of Thrace, it's the first one, I believe, to say that the atom is the essence, not the atom we know anyway today, because for them the atom was an indestructible and invisible particle. And Anaxagoras of Clazomenia, it's from the pluralist who thought that the essential is the combination of many elements. Going back to Heraclitus, let's reflect on this incredible quote. All things are in flux. The flux is subject to a unifying measure or rational principle. This principle, logos, the hidden harmony behind all change, bound opposites together in an unified tension, which is like that of a lyre, where a stable, harmonious sound emerges from the tension of the opposing forces that arise from the bound together by the string. So, Fanta Rei movement, and there's a law behind it, law of loves, if I am allowed to say, and this is what the Greeks call cosmos, because cosmos for them meant order. And well, Mahatma letter number 88 says, neither our philosophy nor ourselves believe in a God. Our philosophy falls under the definition of Hobbes. It is preeminently the science of effects by their causes, and of causes by their effects. And since it is also the science of things deduced from first principle, our doctrine knows no compromises. It either affirms or denies, for it never teaches, but that which it knows to be the truth. Parabrahman is not a God, but absolute immutable law. The word God was invented to designate the unknown. How could a highly intelligent humanity, man the crown of reason, be evolved out of blind and intelligent law or force? In other words, the quest for essential is the finding of what the Greeks call aletheia, truth. In the Proem of the Sacred Doctrine, Blavatsky says, Plato proves himself an initiate when saying in Cratylus that Theos is derived from the verb dein, to move, to run, as the first astronomers who observed the motions of the heavenly bodies called the planets, the gods. Later, the word produced another term, aletheia, the breath of God. There ain't satya nasti paro dharmam. There is no religion higher than truth, the emblem of the Theosophical Society. The Sacred Doctrine says on stanza 4, listen, ye sons of the earth, your instructors, the sons of the fire. Learn there is neither first nor last, for all is one number, issued from no number. And this brings us to Pythagoras of Seymour. He founded a school in Crotona, and there was a sacred oath that every student had to make. Bless us, divine number, thou who generated God and man, O holy, holy Tetrachis, thou that containest the root and source of the eternally flowing creation, the root, the zero, the absolute Parabrahman. For the divine number begins with the profound, pure unity, what he called the monad. It's the first logos, the first God, the birth of the Bible, aletheia, the breath of God. Blavatsky comments that the Pythagorean monad is also said to dwell in solitude and darkness. Moving over the slumbering waters of life, and please remember that Thales of Miletus said, water is the essence. So it is the primordial matter with the latent spirit in it. We have now the opposites, light, darkness, the constant battle, the second logos, and then comes the three, Mahat, divine thought. In other words, Om, Tat, Sat, the Holy Trinity, the triangle, balance. Until it comes to the Holy Four. Four was the mensurable, and it was crucial for the Pythagorean. In fact, it's the pyramid that Pythagoras himself is holding in his hand. And well, we have to remember that Pythagorean and many other Greek philosophers studied in Egypt. So, but the four also means the cross, the crucifixion, and the breaking point to reconcile matter and spirit. Then it begets the mother of all, the all-comprising, all-bounding, the firstborn, the never-straying, the never-tiring Holy Ten, the keyholder of all, what he called the Tetrachis, the sacred number. You can see that the Tetrachis is above his head, in fact. And it's sacred because it represents the one, the monad, and the zero, the absolute. It's like the merge point of everything, the point from which everything manifests. By that pure holy four-letter name on high, nature's eternal fountain and supply, the parent of all souls that living be, by him with faith find oath, I swear to thee. Then the three falls in the four, the three, the one, the four, the one, the five. In their totally, twice 7 represents 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 9, 2, etc. In other words, the p number as the constant in the mathematics, which represents the ratio between the circumference and the diameter of a circle. And I don't know if you know, but there's a sum from P. I cannot show you because I have no time, but please listen to it, okay, please. So music was ultimately important to the Pythagorean. It is thought that the same Pythagoras used to say, there is geometry in the hewing of the strings. There is music in the spacing of the spheres. Because everything vibrates. and as the vibration principle in Kybalion. And for them, when all vibrates, there is silence, which is not the absence of sound, but the noumen of sounds. So they adorated silence because silence is the sound of cosmos. And if you remember, cosmos for them meant order, meant the architect, the god. In other words, Tat Sat, the voice of the silence. So as far as we could see through these presentations, the philosophers were not only mystics, spiritual searchers and sages, but also mathematicians, musicians, politicians, rulers, scientists, and astronomers. Because the philosopher's mission is arete, the virtue, through all the spheres of knowledge, of action, because the philosopher in those times were first and foremost activists. And this is out of love. Contrary to the ascetics moralism, the philosopher has a call for action. And a great example of this virtue is Socrates. He taught ethics and an investigation model, the maieutics, which derives from mother, Maya, and means to help birth in the giving process. The birth of new ideas that can go in the quest for logos. The method, the Socratic method, goes through meaningful questions to make the student acknowledge, I know that I know nothing. You probably may know that he was condemned to death by the Athenian rulers for accusations such as corrupting the minds of the youth and denying the existence of the gods. And I would like to share with you some fragments of the speech he gave to their condemners. This is the way it is, men of Athens, in truth. Terrible that would be, and truly then someone might justly bring me into a law court, saying that I do not believe that there are gods, since I would be disobeying the divination and fearing death, and supposing that I am wise when I am not. For to fear death, man, is in fact nothing other than to seem to be wise, but not to be so. But I do know that it's bad and shameful to do injustice and to disobey one's brother, whether God or human being. So that not even if you let me go now, I would say to you, I, men of Athens, salute you and love you, but I will obey the God rather than you. And as long as I breathe and am able to, I will certainly not stop philosophizing, and I will exhort you and explain this to whomever of you I happen to meet. Because in fact, philosophizing for Socrates, and if I may, the purpose of Theosophy is to go in the quest for the truth, in the quest for that logos, and to come back, bringing a torch to illuminate the cavern in which the humanity lives. So for us to get rid of everything that enslaves our hearts and minds. So for us to be free. Well, I think that's pretty much all. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Miriam. That was so much knowledge, and it painted such a beautiful landscape of Greek philosophy of the ancients. I think it was a great introduction. And I would encourage everyone to express in the chat box what you found of the speakers, and also in the comments on YouTube. After the 4 speaks, we are going to end the transmission in YouTube and have a moment for comments and questions here in Zoom. So if you are watching from YouTube and you want to join the Zoom room to participate in the questions at the end, I will copy and paste the link so you can do so. So our next speaker, who is going to go more into Plato himself, is Edgar Scheister from Mexico. So Edgar, you may begin your presentation.
Hi everyone, how are you? I hope everything is good with you. So I'm going to start to talk about an allegory, a Plato's allegory actually. And thanks Miriam for the introduction. So I'm going to share my screen. Yeah, you can see my screen. Can you see?
Yes, it's not in full screen though.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, the caverns allegory that Plato talks about actually talks about the Maya, right? The Maya is the illusion of the world. So is this part like, as you know, Plato's studied in India and Egypt, and he took all those teachings and exposed them uh, on his books, right? And you can find actually you can find this allegory in the book of the Republic. And what talks about this allegory? Well, I'm going to start to I'm going to try to explain it. As you can see, there's like some men here, and they are like how can I say slaves, I think, esclavos, right? And they can see these projections in the wall like shadows, right? But these men are slaves since their birth, so they doesn't know or they don't know anything else, just these shadows, right? These projections that you can see here. There's another men's and women's that they are exposing like figures in the fire, and these projections that these men's can see or can watch on the wall, they think they are real, right? They believe that all these shadows are real, and beyond beyond of this, you can see um, like the real world that Plato talks about, the world of the ideas, right? So what does it mean, all these things? Actually, it's the same about the Buddhism or some Indian teachings that talks about the Maya, the illusion of the world. So actually, all the human beings, at least almost all the world, uh, they are living here in this change. I mean, these illusions or these projections that we think or we consider that they are real, and what we think that is real, actually the movie of Matrix is it's the allegory of the caverns. Why? Because all the time we are thinking that this reality or this material world that we can see is actually like the real world, but it doesn't. Plato's explained that all the appearances are an illusion. And when we believe that um, the material things or actually the appearances are the real objects, we fall in an illusion, or we are blinded to the truth. So when one of these men are released of his chains, he can go outside and look the real world, right? And this ideal world or the world of ideas that Plato's explained uh, it's the philosophy. In this case, it could be the esoteric knowledge or the truth behind the appearances. And when the philosopher go beyond all these appearances, he can see all this truth and all this real world uh, that domains the humanity. I mean, Plato's belief and explain that actually the real world is the ideas world, because we took a lot of ideas in our society, and because these ideas we form or we build our own life. So when we believe or we live thinking about this body actually is the real thing, we are like these slaves that they only can see the appearances. So what tries to explain this allegory, that we can't believe in the first impression of the things or of the forms, or I mean these shadows that we call Maya actually. Explains that we have to try to go beyond the appearances and try to understand the life deeply, trying to figure it out the real essence of the things, like the anima mundi that Platon talks about. So basically, this is the allegory of the caverns. Actually, you can find a better explanation in YouTube if you want to understand much more about this. But this is a basic knowledge of Plato's wisdom. And if we understand this allegory, we can understand a lot of his teachings, because here we can see the important or the real importance of the ideas, and that also explains, like Plotino says, that all that you can see in the man or in the human being is not the human being. Actually, it's just an appearance. So in theosophical knowledge, we know that we are not the appearances. We have another prince, like another bodies. I mean, we have the physical body, we have the stula sharira, the linga sharira, we have kamas, manas, atma, buddhi, buddhi and atma, right? So we have to try to go beyond these appearances, to be or to release from our own chains, and discover the real world, that is the soul or the anima mundi that lives in everything. And also in Indian philosophy or in the esoteric knowledge, we can call it Parabrahman also. So basically, this is the allegory of the caverns, or it's an analogy. So we can go with the next speaker.
Thank you, Edgar, for sharing with us this very kind of crucial and important teaching of Plato. So I'd like to then invite our next speaker, who is Gabriele Sabeta from Milan, a member of the Italian section of the Theosophical Society. And he will speak about the renaissance of Platonism and Neoplatonism in Italy in the 15th century. So we are going beyond Plato in later influences. So Gabriele, Edgar, I think you have to end your sharing.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and then
Done.
Edgar, if you can begin, thank you. If you can begin yours. Gabriele, sorry.
Hello to everybody. I'm Gabriele Sabeta. I am very happy to be here today with you. I am in Milan, and I am a member of Italian Theosophical Society. I thank Raphael and other speakers. And also I thank Elena Bessi, who helped me to implement my work. I preferred to write almost all things I will think, because I think that in this way you can follow me better. I will speak about the rebirth of Neoplatonism in Italy in the 15th century, and in particular I will try to show you the path that the Western history could have taken if the Hermetic tradition had prevailed over modern science. I will share my screen. Okay. And I can start my presentation. Man is a great miracle, Asclepius. It is a quote from Corpus Hermeticum. I will talk about the rebirth of Neoplatonism in Italy in the 15th century and its relationship with modern science. I define happiness in this way: the return of each thing to its beginning. The concept of history as a straight line came to prevail in the Western world due to the combined thinking of the Christian religion and the modern science. The cyclical representation of time still dominated the search for truth of the Renaissance man. A perpetual circular movement marked the path of a progressive degeneration, from epochs of uncontaminated purity towards conditions of deception and lies, induced by the separation of man from the eternal spiritual source. The great cultural, political, and social movements of that splendid era in which the Neoplatonic genius returned to excel once again derived their strength from looking back. The past was better than the present. It offered categories to evaluate the century and find the best solutions to the problems that afflicted it. It showed examples of courage and virtue to imitate, and progress in this story coincided with the rebirth of antiquity, with the sense of the return to the pure gold of a better civilization. From ancient times, the figure of the philosopher re-emerged ever stronger, and he was very different from the intellectuals of the previous era. More magician than pedantic teacher, free man of science, freed from orthodoxies, restless researcher and experimenter. The magical theme had also been a widespread motif during the medieval age, but at the beginning of the 15th century, it seemed to pass from the subsoil to the light, taking on a new aspect and becoming common to all the great philosophers and scientists. The beautiful opening of the Asclepius returned to echo solemnly. A great miracle is man, worthy of honor and veneration. We have not made you either heavenly or earthly, nor mortal or immortal, so that you, as a free, extraordinary shaper and sculptor of yourself, can mold yourself into the form you prefer. The judgment of the ambiguous reality of man was centered on his being an infinite possibility, a total opening through which the inexhaustible richness of being was celebrated. Human nature, unlike animals and things, is not defined once and for all, but it's perennially placed on the border of an absolute risk. Giovanni Pico della Mirandola writes in the Heptaplus, sensing the esoteric content of the book of Genesis, we seek in man a note that is peculiar to him, with which the dignity that is proper to him is explained. And what else can it be if not the fact that the substance of man contains within itself, by its very essence, the substances of all natures and the whole of the whole universe? In the treatise of Hermetic Magic, a substantial agreement emerges in the vision of a living universe, rich in hidden correspondence, occult sympathies, pervaded by spirits. It's all a refracting of signs, and all with a hidden meaning of symbols. Everything, every being, every force is a voice not yet understood, a word suspended in the air that has innumerable echoes and resonance. And in the middle there is man, immortal between earth and sky, unique among beings from down here, who can respond to every invocation, challenge the elements, know the demons, shape ideas, trace every character. The distance between the scholastic culture of the Middle Ages and from our culture and that of the New Age is the same distance that exists between a closed universe, immobile without possibilities, defined forever, and an open, infinite space full of possibilities. In the order of the first, magic is only a demonic temptation which wants to crack a peaceful and perfect world. For this, the magician is fought, persecuted, and magic is relegated out of the sciences worthy of men. Likewise, behind the emergence of modern science, there was the new orientation towards the world and its wonders, its mysterious procedures, and unprecedented desire and determination to understand its mechanism and work with them. It is precisely in the figure of the magician that those changed attitudes in the man-cosmos relationship are exemplified, which will prove to be indispensable for the rise of Galilean scientific thought. However, there is a great difference between the mechanism and mathematics of thinkers such as Mersenne and Descartes and the magic of personalities such as Cornelio Agrippa, Tommaso Campanella, and Robert Fludd, even if the transition between the two worlds was not as sharp as it would seem from our modern perspective. Historians were wrong to blame the disappearance of magic on the advent of modern science. The latter replaced a part of the former, continuing its dreams and goals. Electricity, fast means of transport, radio, computer, are nothing more than the fulfillment of the promises that magic first formulated. Technology today presents itself as a democratic magic, which allows everyone to enjoy the extraordinary faculties that the magician boasted. Nevertheless, even if the effects coincide, deluding the moderns into thinking they have dominated the ancients, the presuppositions are not the same. In fact, the magical arts focus on men and on inner transformations and experiments, and the phenomena that are produced externally are considered secondary and unnecessary, while modern technology provides man with extrinsic powers that in no way change his existential condition. Giordano Bruno, taking up the myth of Ateone in the heroic enthusiast, exalts the metamorphic power of the will, symbolized by the mastiffs, and that of the intellect, represented by the greyhounds. The combined action of both, together with the love for goodness and divine beauty, converts the individual into the desired object. The hunter internalizes the things he has learned and, initially enraptured by the divine beauty, then he becomes prey to it. That is, he realizes he doesn't need to seek divinity outside himself. The infinite power of man is gathered in the unity of the act, in that eternal present that achieves the supreme synthesis of knowing and being. The security of an ahistorical cosmos with fixed structures is shattered, as well as the idea of a pure contemplative man who must exhaust his flesh and become blind to every seduction of life. We have to reaffirm this message in our time, when man seems to be the victim of the most serious conspiracy against his intelligence, his conscience, and his freedom. At a sign from man, the elements and the brutes are ready to serve the earth. For him, the heavens toil. The angelic minds bring salvation and bliss to him. Nor should we be surprised if all creatures love man, for in him all recognize something of themselves, indeed their whole being. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Gabriele. He expanded a lot what we could understand as the influences of Platonic philosophy. I think it was a very nice presentation, and beautiful one. So now I will invite our last speaker in this panel, who is Matia Lugara. He's also a member of the Theosophical Society in Italy, and I believe he will make a very good closing to this beautiful panel. Mattia, could you begin yours?
Thank you, Raphael, and welcome to everybody. So first I want to begin taking the words that Raphael used at the beginning of the panel. So we can say many times we use Eastern philosophy in order to explain Theosophy. In the Theosophical Society, Eastern philosophy is very well studied. On the other side, Western philosophy was at the basis of HPB work, and so we sometimes need a little bit of dignity, more dignity, to Western philosophy as well. So there's in a certain vision, within a certain vision, everything is connected with Theosophy, and we don't have to be unsure about talking about Western philosophy, even in front of many people coming from the east side of the world. So having said that, I wanted to begin the presentation. It will be a short and concise presentation, but hopefully clear, in order to connect with all what has been said till now, and to complete. Yes. So let's begin. Okay. So why Platonism was majorly connected to forms of occultism and magic. So even taking into consideration what Gabriele said, why the Renaissance in Italy and humanism in Italy took into consideration the Platonic philosophy. So during all the medieval times, Platonism was hidden, or it was like a stream beneath the soil, okay? Something that was mysterious, hidden in the monasteries or somewhere. There is a famous book by Umberto Eco that is the Name of the Rose. It's pretty famous. They made a film as well. And yeah, as it is depicted there, Platonism was something that Christendom tried to hidden. And why it was so? Because the philosophy of Plato and Neoplatonism and what came afterwards had a very particular vision of life and particular vision of the world. That, for example, Plato's disciple Aristotle didn't really agreed upon, or at least this is what we now know about Aristotle's work. Why? Because what we know and what we got from the past, from Aristotle's work, is we don't really know if it was exactly so, those books, or there were some other books, like a sort of esoteric books of Aristotle. So now we have some books, some works, but we are not sure whether those works were just exoteric works, or even if there were further works, esoteric ones. So basing our knowledge on what we have, we can draw separation line, like a distinction between Platonism and Aristotelism. And throughout all the medieval age in Europe, these two philosophical schools, let's say so, these two philosophical schools were pretty distinctive. In particular, Aristotelism led to what we can call modern science, or something related to science in a particular way that now we're going to see. And Platonism was taken into consideration by magicians and occultistic students. So what are these differences? So as we see in La Scuola di Atene, this beautiful painting, a fresco, so Plato is pointing his finger upwards, while Aristotle is fixing the hand, the palm of the hand towards the ground. So,
Mattia, sorry, we're not seeing an image. Is that right?
You are not?
No, I thought you knew that. Yeah, you're not sharing your screen. So if you,
Oh my God. Sorry.
yeah, now we were referring to the painting and I realized that perhaps there is an image.
Yeah, there is, sorry. Oh my God. Okay. You can see?
Yes, now it's,
I'm sorry.
yes.
Okay, so yeah. Yeah, these were the previous images. I'm sorry, really sorry. Okay. Okay, yeah. Yeah, this one here, as I said. And here we are. Okay. So, a first considerable differences between the two is in their conception of the world. So, for Plato, there was a world of ideas and a world of forms. And the sensible reality, the world of forms, was subordinated to the world of ideas. And the first one, the world of forms, is mutable, is subdued to the law of mutation, of transformation, of evolution. And the second one is fixed, is eternal. The being dwells in the supra-sensible realm, that is the world of ideas, and as I wrote here, is incorruptible and abstract, possible to reach by the use of reason. On the contrary, for Aristotle, the being is immanent with the world and things, and reality is unitary. Only this world exists. The spirit is infused in the matter. So, as we can understand here, probably it's a matter of perspective, but as it was understood in, the Aristotelian philosophy was more about the material world. Even though, I mean, only understanding the real meaning of what Aristotle said, we can not be so sure that was only a materialistic vision. Indeed, it was not a materialistic vision, of course. But reality for Aristotle is the union of form and matter, as he said, hylemorphism. Morphe, form, and hyle, morphe, form, and hyle, the matter. So the ideas, the concepts for Aristotle are drawn from things. Okay. So we can say that for Plato, there were two different words and there was a connection between them. And yeah, knowledge. Yes, knowledge is the process of reminiscence, remembering, and remembering as, yes, dhikr for the Sufis, remembering and establishing a bridge between the two worlds. For Aristotle, there was just one world, and in this one world, the knowledge is more scientific, something that has to be established in the world of things. So, how is it connected with magic? What we've just said. So, magic and magicians, the terms and the practices that arrived in Greece came from the Middle East, Persia in particular. And Herodotus talks about those practices and the functions, the ceremonial functions of the magicians. But at the times in which Herodotus spoke, the Greek culture was already at its peak. And so, what are the influences that, Greek philosophy had on the practice of magic? These influences gave birth to what is called theurgy, a concept that put together the magical practices of the magicians of Persia and the philosophical world of the Greeks. Okay, so theurgy was a spiritual path, a religious path, that put together, that merged these two visions. Okay, let's go on. Yeah. So, as the man who learned how to control and master the powerful forces of the universe and direct them towards the knowledge of the divine is able to become himself, we can say a god, learns how to connect the divine in him with the divine of the universe. And these are the words of Iambricus. Okay, let's go on. Okay. So, the concept that rose in Greece was different from the one that came from Persia. So the one that came from Persia, the Persian meaning was related to power, to a being who was able to interrupt the laws of nature, to work against the laws of nature. Coming to Greece, this meaning changed completely and turned to describe a being who is able to work perfectly within the laws of nature. Okay. Yeah, exactly. So here, the magician, the magus, works in accordance with the cosmos. That, as Miriam said, the cosmos is the order, the cosmic order. So, with the universal necessity. The magus is a son or daughter of necessity. Practically, it is based on invocation, that is the manifestation within a human being, and evocation, the manifestation without the human being, outside the human being through a mean. Yes. Okay. So as we said, for all the medieval age, this knowledge was concealed and kept in secret. And at a certain point, through the translations that some Greek philosophers and intellectuals coming from Greece to Italy made of the Plato's works, there was this renaissance, this rebirth of the Platonic thought and the Platonic teachings. And so magic was practiced even among the clergy in the medieval times, yes, but by the majority was seen as a demonic practice. It rose again during the early Renaissance. This knowledge led to a humanistic conception of the world, and practice of magic was intellectualized. So became quite popular among the intellectuals of that period. So the church resorted to Inquisition, but the world had begun to change already. So first in Italy during the 15th and 16th century. Then in England with for example, John Dee between the 16th and 17th century, and in the Holy Roman Empire. Okay, yeah. So the rebirth of Platonism gave new strength to the tide of renewal. Yes. Last, we now understand why Plato and Platonism and his school, Academia, were the basis of the magical practices, the vision that now we call Platonism, but yeah, we know that we cannot call this knowledge by any name, but at the moment we call it Platonism. Let's say so, Platonism. Okay, so Plato conceived two worlds and a connection, interaction between them. Above, a world of ideas, eternal, and below, the world of opinions and fleeting reality. The man in the middle as a Mercury, a Bifrost. Bifrost is the rainbow bridge of the Norse mythology. So in the middle, the man as a Mercury, as a Bifrost, between the two worlds. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mattia. That's such speak that, you know, expanded our minds and brought lots of new things. Very clear. Thank you. I will then end the transmission to YouTube, so people who are in Zoom can, you know, make questions and comments more freely. If you are watching from YouTube live, you can also click in the link to join us in Zoom here. I just posted in the comments. And as I'm ending the transmission in YouTube, I will leave you with the link to the song that Miriam mentioned about P. So if you do not want to come to Zoom, you can also watch the song. So thank you for watching us and have a good day.